And welcome to the No Show Sportscast. First pitch, face-off, kickoff, tip-off. The Vancouver Canucks are in the playoffs, and not only are they in the playoffs, but they are rolling. They are continuing the momentum, the way that we have been able to look at this team ever since the beginning of the calendar year, when it was no longer just a nice little story that they had a hot start and that they were unexpectedly the top team in the Western Conference. Their horses, Miller, Hughes, Pettersson, Besser, these guys doing it all season long. At one point, all of them were at the top of the standings. It's carried over into the postseason, and this is where it all matters. This is where it all counts. We know this, right? And the biggest question mark was, are the Canucks going to have that hot start, maintain it throughout the regular season, and as well, of course, is it going to be around as effective in the off season, regular season, postseason, every season so far? That's just how it's been for the Canucks. They have not taken their foot off the gas at all, and Nashville looked like a worthy opponent. I mean, it's a good thing that they didn't have to deal with Vegas, who was making the Dallas Stars look like they're the first round team, and Vegas looks like they were the first seed as they're beating up on Dallas. The Canucks, we did not want to see the Canucks be battling it out against Vancouver, because the whole idea of beating a bad team and losing to good teams, maybe it's a toss-up. Maybe sometimes you beat a good team, but you're always going to beat the bad teams. You're always going to be in that position, cemented at the top, one of the top teams. And this year, there are so many teams that look like they could rip their opponent's head off and just accelerate to the top to the Stanley Cup final, go all the way. This is going to be one of the most competitive Stanley Cup finals we have ever seen. The journey, like, think about it. You want a Stanley Cup final, you want the top two teams, but you're getting that in just the second round. Hurricanes, Rangers, Edmonton, Vancouver, Dallas, or Vegas going up against Colorado. There are just juggernauts left, right, and center here. This is unforeseen and unprecedented. These are new waters that we have never even encountered before, but let alone the Canucks being able to make examples of Nashville. Hey, guys, you're in the backseat, okay? You're the team that is still trying to figure it out. We're the ones who are established, and we have been all season. Nashville, you have not been that team. You have not been established like we have all season long. That's what the Canucks are thinking. That's huge. That is huge, because their identity had shifted over. I had talked about how they went from a team being, this is just a great story. This is a nice little feel-good season, start to the year, hot start, Demko nominee for the Vezina. Looks like Quinn Hughes is getting the Norris, like all these things. It's looking great. Miller might get a Hart vote, like top 5. I'm not sure exactly, but either way, like this, they are contenders, and they have been, and they are showing it. I mean, Demko, man, you got to come back. Like, you got to come back eventually, because the Canucks need their Vezina finalist. You can't get there with the Smith. And what's weird about hockey is that you don't really put a whole lot of stock into your goalies. What you do is you get backups and you make them starters. That's what you do. You grow them up like it's baseball farming systems. That's what you do. And the Canucks are really good at that. Demko is the guy. You have to get him back. He's got to get it together, got to figure it out. Something has to happen. And if the stars have to align, and it's a miracle, and he's actually struggling, the Canucks have just, like, every team I know every team has this, but what the Canucks have had to go through, and now Artur Shilovs is your goalie, going into Tuesday's game, I mean, it doesn't matter. It's Demko, we're looking to the future, okay? We're writing off Nashville. The future is the Edmonton Oilers. Casey DeSmith, possibly. Demko, absolutely. You're going to be a problem for Edmonton. And that's what a lot of these series is looking like, because a lot of them are 3-1 leads. We had the sweep of the Rangers because the Capitals just are a very odd team. It would have been nice to see Pittsburgh in there or the Flyers. I know the Rangers and the Flyers, that's a good old rivalry, always great. The Islanders slid in to play the Hurricanes and get destroyed one way or another. That's kind of what happens when you're that bottom seeded team. But here we are. We've got, the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference. They are both just wreaking havoc. Every single team is just relentless. And that's what we want, and that's great, So that's where we're at, because the first round is always the best because there's always something going on every single night. And that's what we want as hockey fans. The Lightning just did not have it. And this goes back to what I was saying about how there are so many teams that look like this is their year. And for some of them, they haven't won yet. You got to win. You got to have this core, this huge group of talented skill players. They're not going to be this spectacular forever. You got to win now. That is the case with so many teams. Last year, it looked like Vegas was obviously the better team. Year before that, Colorado. Year before that, Tampa. But the Hurricanes, the Panthers, Vegas again, Colorado again, Vancouver, Edmonton, the Rangers. The Bruins are looking pretty dynamic. Maybe it's just because they're facing Toronto. But this is going to be a very difficult cup to win. And for a lot of teams, it is their time. This is their year. And it's just not the year for Tampa. This is not their year. Sergachev, too little, too late. Coming back when we're down 3-0. Not necessarily a disconnected season, because it was great when they had that refreshing Dumba, Duclair, adding those guys at the deadline. Looked like Vasilevsky was playing more like himself. Maybe he's been injured just because he hasn't been good. 900 save percentage in the regular season. That kind of stuff is baffling. And this is also reminiscent of last time Kucherov set a franchise record for points. They got swept in the first round to Columbus back in 2019. He had 128 points. And here he does it again, 144. It just doesn't mean anything when you're trying to win a cup. But man, having all of this happen after they go and win 2 and 4 finals in the last 7 years. Four finals just in the era, the Hedman Stamkos era. So it's not the world isn't falling down. It's very tough because these are your guys. You stood by them, like just always believing that they can come back, and that's exactly how I felt after winning Game 4. But it's just so many other teams have it, and right now the youth is taking over. It's a young man's game. The speed, the attention to detail, the blue line, the defense, the offensive touch, the goals piling up, timely possessions, penalty kill, discipline, all these factors come into play. And that is where we're at. So the Stanley Cup Finals the Stanley Cup playoffs rather, they continue to motor along, and it's exciting. And I want to continue watching it because this is the best time. It would be nice if the Stanley Cup playoffs was only once every 4 years, because then you could enjoy the championship, the winning, just before you know it, Tampa's already out and they're already competing for another cup, and I'm just like, oh man. And then they win, and then you're like, well, this is great. Could this last a little bit longer? No, they have to compete for another one and another one and another one. It's just like, it's fine, because Vasilevsky, Hedman, Point, Kucherov, and Stamkos, they're all going to retire. They're all going to be relaxing, looking back at Hall of Fame careers, and they're going to have those 2 cups. And the exhaustion and the hamster wheel and the rat race is all going to be over. And that's the best part about retirement. When you've achieved something in your career, that is the ultimate in sports in your respected fields. So that's where we're at. Let's continue to motor along.